Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Liquid Meta's channel, the infrastructure powering decentralized finance. Joining us as always, John, the Chief Executive Officer. A pleasure to have you back, sir.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Live the dream, brother, yourself.
Yep, same dream.
So we've got some pretty prevalent news that I think is important to discuss. It was really nice that you disclosed this. You're hitting it head on. The Ronin network had a bit of a hack going on. Can you first and foremost tell us what happened with that?
Yeah, I would say a bit of a hack is a bit of an understatement, to say the least. Like I always say in all of my presentations to investors, to industry participants, whomever, there's two big risk factors in our business. One is regulatory. Let's not go there. You and I have discussed that in the past. And then there's security, right? So we are a liquidity provider. We're the first pure play publicly traded liquidity miner on top of that in the world. And then when we provide liquidity onto a decentralized exchange, that liquidity is now off of our wallet. It's on a liquidity exchange in a liquidity pool, and it's earning a yield all day, every day. It's essentially out of our possession. Now, there have been security breaches on these types of exchanges in the past. A hacker has gone into the exchange and they have stolen the tokens or the liquidity that exists on the exchange at large. That's not what happens with the Ronin network. So let me take a step back. In the third week of March, Sky Mavis, who is the large organization that is the backer of the Ronin network, the Ronin DAO. They're also one of the largest backers of Axie Infinity. Okay, they were the founders of Axie Infinity. They announced that the bridge to the Ronin network, the Ronin blockchain, had been compromised. Now there were $615 million of token value, most of which was ETH, the token for Ethereum, sitting on that bridge, and then to a much lesser extent, USDC, the stable coin. Now, the DEX, or the exchange where Liquid Meta's capital is being deployed as liquidity, earning its yield, it was not compromised. The bridge where you access from one blockchain to the other blockchain, that was compromised. If you go back several weeks ago, there was also a hack very similar to this one. It was called Wormhole. That was another bridge that was compromised. So I guess the security threats that are happening right now in DeFi, in crypto, are not specific to just the exchanges, but they have become more recently and more prevalent on the bridge. Liquid Meta did not have any direct exposure to the $615 million that was compromised on the bridge. On the exchange is where we have our capital. That exchange halted its operation, so the exchange was halted. Our capital was safe, it was secure, and it was around $2 million or 10% of our balance sheet. Now, the other important part from Liquid Meta's perspective that I'd like to share with you and your listeners is the way that we evaluate the risk factors before we provide liquidity to a certain exchange. We have a list of criteria that is part of our corporate governance policy that we go through. It's many different checklists, certain things like, has the exchange been audited? What's the quality of the blockchain? Who are the investors behind the DApp or the exchange? What are the quality of the founders and their engineering capabilities? TVL, there's a whole laundry list of things that we weight and we risk and we assign a risk factor to. And we go through and we check off all of the boxes and we weight and we score before we provide liquidity to a new exchange or a new liquidity pool. The specific DEX that we had an exposure to on the Ronin network, it met and exceeded all of those risk parameters. And that was flushed out. And we were somewhat substantiated the other day when Sky Mavis announced that they had gone out and raised a significant amount of capital to replace part of the $615 million that was taken off the bridge, and they reopened the exchange. So a lot of the things that we look for, they were qualified later. So again, it's publicly known, the exchange Liquid Meta has provided liquidity to is now operating. We are yield farming, liquidity mining with our capital. We can see it. We can see how much revenue we're generating, how much cash flow we're generating. And so it's business as usual today in terms of Liquid Metas Capital on that exchange.
That's
I know that was a mouthful, but that's what
I,
happens.
I think you offered an incredible amount of insight. Now, because you guys are trying to remove the volatility, give institutional investors an onboarding platform into the crypto space, and the fact that you guys are basically trading at less than half your go public price and your cash value on your balance sheet, you kind of just want to offer some anecdotes or insights to those institutional investors that might be intrigued into this space.
Yeah, so we think that the recent announcements and our, I guess, our interface or interaction with the Ronin hack, I think it's a really good, that's a really good segue to answer this question. So we are trying to ultimately become the bridge, the hand-holding mechanism or the technology that's going to help institutional investors and enterprises access DeFi through our platform, through our technology, through our expertise, our capabilities. Now, as a public company, as a company that is going after this very large institutional market, we feel that it's inherently important and part of our internal DNA to provide as much corporate governance and disclosure, visibility, and transparency to this market, which really doesn't have a whole lot of it. And so we also believe that our ability to provide all of those various things to our potential customers, institutional customers, it's a competitive advantage. So again, we want to be as transparent, as upfront, and as open as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this really appreciate that, everything that you're mentioning here with insights. Now, I just kind of want to broad view the conversation a little bit, because obviously with the geopolitical events that are just continuing to get exacerbated here, how do you feel that affects the crypto space in general?
Right. So you're seeing a lot of macro impacts given, the Russia-Ukraine issue. You're seeing currencies fluctuating and are quite volatile at times. Crypto is providing investors an alternative way to move capital throughout the world, and adoption, and it's increasing the amount of adoption across the crypto industry. So non-crypto natives that are looking at the transparency again of operating on a blockchain as a good alternative of storing value or moving value from point A to point B, as opposed to more traditional sources of capital movement, such as the US dollar or the euro. So that's what I think you're seeing the greatest impact on the crypto markets. It's very liquid, it's very transparent, and when I say very liquid, I'm referring to the large cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the layer 1 tokens, and the large stable coins.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, with inflation, like you're saying, with the currency volatility, I feel like people looking for that liquidity, and especially when this is becoming a global-based event, it's just a very intriguing setup for crypto moving forward, and it's been holding very strong through this current environment. So I think it's really speaking profoundly to people looking for a decentralized or just a disconnected asset class from the traditional finance, because even with gold, right, is largely unliquidable. It's largely held through banks, and it doesn't offer the same kind of transaction capabilities. But on that note, John, I really appreciate these insights today, and thanks for taking this head on. I definitely appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Kyle.
And on that note, I want to pass the question off to you guys. We would love to know what you think about all of this in that comment section below. Consider subscribing, because as more news comes down the wire, we'll always continue to update you here. But stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.